Few Final Fantasy characters embody the tension between hope and despair as much as Yuna from Final Fantasy X. She's a summoner, a daughter, a leader, and a martyr, shaped by a world locked in an endless cycle of death. But Yuna's story is not simply one out of duty. It is about breaking free from systems of control, redefining faith, and learning to live not for others, but for yourself. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the lore, psychology, and symbolism of Yuna, a character who stands at the heart of one of Final Fantasy's most beloved stories. It's quite funny how I've covered every single main party character in the game except for Yuna. This is definitely long overdue. Anyway, let's commence. To understand Yuna, we must first understand the world that shaped her. She is the daughter of High Summoner Braska, one of and the most recent of Spira's celebrated High Summoners. Her father's legacy gave her both reverence and expectation, something that is out of her control. But her mother was Albed, an outcast race scorned for rejecting Yevon's teachings. This duality, half Yevonite, half Albed, defined Yuna's identity from the start. To the Yevon faithful, she was Braska's daughter, a beacon of hope to the people of Spira. To the Albed, she was family, blood tied to their struggle, which most of the perpetrators of this struggle are the same ones who see her in that light. And to herself, she was caught in between. This dual heritage is crucial. It represents Yuna's lifelong tension between conformity and resistance. Outwardly, she embraces Yevon's teachings, dedicating herself to pilgrimage. Inwardly, her empathy and quiet openness comes from her mother's influence. Yuna is not a zealot, she's a bridge. But like any bridge, she risks being crushed beneath the weight of two worlds. Yuna chooses to become a summoner, knowing full well that her path ends in death. But why? What makes someone embrace inevitable sacrifice? Part of it is legacy. Braska's shadow looms large, and Spira reveres summoners as symbols of hope. But more than that, it's survivor's guilt. Yuna grew up in a world scarred by sin's destruction, surrounded by loss. By dedicating her life to the final summoning, she gives meaning to suffering. This is what makes Yuna so complex. Her calm demeanor isn't natural optimism, it's performance. She smiles because she believes it is her responsibility to give hope to others, even if she feels despair. Tidus himself notices this, calling her out when her smile seems not happy. Psychologically, Yuna exemplifies the archetype of the self-sacrificing caregiver. She prioritizes the needs of the collective over her own individuality. In doing so, she erases her own desires, her love for Tidus, her curiosity about the world, even her own fear. These are buried beneath duty. Until, of course, the cracks begin to show. Yuna's pilgrimage is not just religious, it's political. Yevon's teachings demand obedience. Summoners like Yuna reinforce the cycle of sin by sacrificing themselves for temporary relief. In this way, Yevon weaponizes hope to maintain control. It's quite a brutal aspect of this religion, so to speak. Yuna embodies the tragedy of faith in corrupted institutions. She truly believes in her mission until she learns the truth. That sin cannot be permanently destroyed, that every final summoning only perpetuates this cycle, that her sacrifice would mean nothing. That is the turning point of her character. Yuna does not simply despair, she rebels. In Bevel, during her forced marriage to Seymour, she refuses to be a pawn of the church. Later, at the core of Zanarkand, she outright refuses the final summoning as a whole. This act of defiance is monumental. For a character built on duty and submission, rejecting her destiny is nothing short of revolutionary. Yuna evolves from a symbol of institutional hope to a symbol of radical change. She teaches Spira that false hope is no salvation and that true peace can only come by breaking the cycle itself. At the heart of Yuna's arc is her relationship with Tidus. Their bond is not a typical love story, it's philosophical. Tidus is a dream, literally. He comes from a Zanarkand that no longer exists, projected from the faith's memories. He has no ties to Yevon, no belief in its doctrines. His perspective is free, naive, even rebellious. He represents freedom. Yuna, on the other hand, is tied to tradition, lineage, and sacrifice. She represents structure. Their relationship is not just emotional, it is dialectical. Each challenges the other's worldview. Tidus forces Yuna to imagine a life beyond sacrifice. Yuna grounds Tidus, teaching him empathy and connection. The connection and dynamic both characters share is essential to the overall story, and because of how deep-rooted their ties are to their origins, one does not simply progress the way they do without the other. The famous Macalania wood scene symbolizes this perfectly. Floating on the lake, free from pilgrimage for one brief moment, Yuna allows herself to love, not as a summoner, but as a woman. It's not just romance, it's her first true act of self-ownership. Yuna's story is deeply symbolic, and the following features define it as such. When it comes to the Aeons, each of them represents a pact between Yuna and the Faith, which are souls trapped in eternal dreaming. They are both her power and her burden, a reflection of her bond with the dead. When Yuna summons, she literally calls upon sacrifice. With water imagery, Yuna is constantly associated with water, from her sending ritual on the Kilika Pier, to her dance at the Lake Macalania, to the final farewell at the sea. Water symbolizes both purification and impermanence. Yuna herself is fluid, calm on the surface, yet carrying powerful currents beneath. Her staff is not just a weapon, it is a tool of ritual. Its design reflects both Yevon's authority and Yuna's personal grace. It symbolizes the duality of faith and individuality. With regards to her name, in Japanese, Yuna can be associated with night or moonlight. She is the quiet light in Spira's darkness, guiding others even as she sacrifices herself to do so. While controversial, Final Fantasy X-2 is essential to Yuna's arc. After defeating Sin, Yuna is free for the first time in her life. But freedom is terrifying. Who is she, if not a summoner? In fact, that is all we've known her for in Final Fantasy X, and we have learned so much about the complex relationships in her life. So, with X-2, how does it differ now that pretty much most of these elements are gone? Her transformation into a sphere hunter is symbolic. She sheds the robes of Yevon and embraces self-expression. Bright clothes, guns, laughter. Some saw this as an inconsistency with her earlier personality, but it is actually a natural continuation. She's experimenting, reclaiming agency that was denied to her. And yet, even in X-2, her heart remains the same. She still carries the weight of others, still yearns for Tidus, still struggles with balancing selfhood and responsibility. Yuna is not reborn as someone new, she's simply living for the first time. Yuna is one of Final Fantasy's greatest triumphs in character writing. She begins as a symbol, a quiet girl carrying the world's expectations, and ends as a revolutionary, defying both gods and destiny itself. Her story is not just about sacrifice, it is about the courage to choose life, the strength to carry one's own path, and the hope that even in the darkest times, change is possible. Yuna's legacy endures because she reminds us that hope is not found in blind faith or empty sacrifices, but in the will to live, love, and dream beyond what the world demands. And that, in a very deep nutshell, is the lore behind Yuna. We delved a little bit more into her creation as opposed to her life story compared to what I did with the previous characters, but I thought this was a much more interesting lore topic to cover. Taking a look at how the different relationships shaped her life and the bridge between Final Fantasy X and 2, and why it was quite significant to follow on her personality. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and comment on what other Final Fantasy topics you'd like me to cover. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and that, as they say, is that.